Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Tazed Logic podcast. Today we have a bit of a different episode for you as I'm going one-on-one with director Sean Q. King. Sean and I are not only filmmakers, we've both gone through the journey of having kidney transplants. And really, not that far apart from each other either, but more on that later in the podcast. As a cinematographer, he's known for his work on such award-winning films as The Night Never Sleeps, Send No Flowers, and Cigarette Soup. As a director, you could see his films Lost Suburbia, This Mortal Coil, The Gooligans, Hunter's Moon, and a film we'll go into more detail later in this episode, as I liked it quite a bit, his latest film, Like Me Deadly. And so, with no further ado, let's start our chat with Sean King. Hey man, it's great to see you.
Hey,
how are you?
You too. Thank you. I'm great, man.
Good.
How about you?
Good to almost meet you.
Yeah, I know. This is for the time being, this is as close as we can get, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is we've been corresponding for about a year now, and but we've never actually met. We've met, we were introduced by a common friend, and by common friend, not meaning that he's not a common in the least. It's just he's common between the two of us. A gentleman by the name of Joe Senna, who introduced us, the two of us, because we had a very similar situation happen that we will get into later.
And the timing was pretty
incredible, yeah. And I think that's what makes the story so fascinating, And
to check on progress after a year and change. Yeah,
exactly. So let's start with you. I mean, you are a filmmaker, just like myself. And I was going through a bunch of your videos last night, which I really loved, and which I want to talk to about. Particularly one that really struck me. You were doing some DP work for directors out here on Long Island. We actually watched one of the films. I can't remember the name of it, but it had Sean Young, and it was pretty cool.
Oh, Send No Flowers.
Yes,
yeah, that's right.
That was it. Send No Flowers. Yeah.
I call it Daughter of Godfather, but it's kind of. I think that would have been a cooler title. But.
Yeah, that seems more apropos than that.
Oh, thanks for watching that.
Yeah. It was awesome work.
Wild.
The cinematography was really good. So I mean,
Thank you.
It's good to see that that there are talented people out there. Which if you're particularly just starting in this business and you want to look at people who are sort of in your neighborhood doing real work and real look to Sean. Look Sean Q. King is his name. If you look him up, you'll see some really terrific stuff.
That's what got me into those. Well, I didn't get me into that type of filmmaking, but the fact that growing up and being obsessed with film and stories and stuff, I would try to find out what was happening locally.
Right.
And which was cool because it was the overflow of New York City coming into Long Island. So I would just try to get involved with anything that I could get a ride to, steal a car and go to, cut out of class in high school and go work on a set, because the fact that something was happening so close to me and I wasn't involved in it drove me nuts.
Right.
So if that's what it takes for somebody to kind of get started, to contact me. Don't contact Rob. Rob's busy.
No, that's fine. Just please contact me.
Yeah, but that was great. That was a great kickstart to kind of like get you interested.
Right.
And that was a long time ago, and people were really welcoming. But I'm sure it's happening on every block now, and it's just kind of so commonplace.
Absolutely. Did you go to film school?
I did not go to film school. What I did was what I said. I was a terrible high school student because I would leave class and go shoot videos, and I would go work on sets. When I was underage, with my friend and I would lie, and we would go to work on a local set as a PA, unpaid, whatever. We were there. We would meet, my friend and I would meet at high school at like 7 a.m. He would get in my car and we would drive to a set and work all day.
Wow, that's amazing.
We wouldn't go to class because that's what we wanted to learn. We didn't want to learn the other stuff.
That was it. I was a horrible student in high school. I mean, I was a D and F student in high school. Yeah. It wasn't because I was dumb. It's just I had zero interest in anything they had to teach me. I think part of that's me. I think part of that is, now looking back, because I'm married to a teacher, part of it was me. Part of it was bad teaching. There's no motivation. My wife always says being a teacher is an extremely easy job if you're a bad teacher. And I looking back now, I realize I had a lot of bad teachers who I had no interest in what they were trying to teach me. They were just trying to, after a while, you sort of realize just trying to shovel you through the system versus look at you as individuals. Until, there was a career day in the high school. And I think Joe Senna might have actually been there. I don't remember, but they were
you classmates? You were classmates.
He was a year ahead of me.
Oh,
he may have actually been 2 years ahead of me.
Okay.
But we all knew each other there was a science fiction club in the high school. And so that's how we all knew each other. And they would make films. And at that time, before that, I thought making films was something that was just foreign. There was no way I could possibly make it. My dad had bought a Super 8 camera and I had a bunch of Star Wars figures. So I would just make little animated Star Wars movies, but that was it. I figured that it would end there. There's no way, this is beyond anything I could probably do, because it was something as a kid, it was never presented to you. You were either, you would just be a doctor, or you would be a lawyer, or you would be a post office, whatever jobs that were just tactile in front of you. But jobs as artists weren't even on your radar.
No, they were highly impractical, and like you said, they weren't presented to you as a course. Actually, I can't say that, because in high school I did take a film studies class, which was great, and a great teacher. And there was a few classes that the teacher really took an interest and found your talent and tried to cultivate that and really encourage that part of it. But there's too many kids in the class. They can't do that. They can't take the time to do that with every student. But yeah, you're right. There was shop class. There was all these other things, but film, really wasn't presented as a valid opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think the one saving grace for me was that my dad was a jazz musician. He was a saxophonist, and so I grew up with a sort of creative element in my house. Now he, before I was born, stopped being a jazz musician and became an accountant. So it was interesting because I actually watched him go from an artist to take a regular job, and I watched his spirit break. He was just like this, like sort of a shell of a guy, because I've seen pictures of him playing, and that's when I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize my dad was ever that happy just holding a saxophone. And so I realized, so part of me also too was like, I realized that school was grooming me to be what my dad became, as opposed to what my dad was. And so then that's when I really lost complete interest in it. And then when I realized we could make these little films in the Science Fiction Club, and then some of them, Joe Sinnott, another guy who sounds like Joe Sinnott, and my best friend Jim Haynes, who were a year ahead of me, they went on to the School of Visual Arts. And so I realized, what's the School of Visual Arts? And they, my friend Joe was going for photography and Jim was going for art. And I realized that there was a film study program there. And I was like, okay, that's it. I get to go to college with my friends and learn what I want to do. Right. And it was the exact opposite. So my grades, which were going like this, suddenly were like this, because I had this interest in what I wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something that, I know a few teachers. I actually know my friend Jacob Stiebel teaches at the cinema school in the Bronx. I think it's in the Bronx. And it's really great to see him teach straight film in a class. They go, they travel the world with the class and make a film, and they make films in Europe. I don't quite know. I don't think he does it still, because he was working with an organization called the Ghetto Film School.
Wow.
And it was for underprivileged students to go to like in high school, to go to a film school and actually make films.
Right.
So I guess it's kind of a vocational school, which is great. And a lot of people say that should be more of a focus in high school, is vocational school. But it's great that you were inspired by your friends and the timing was right.
It was perfect.
You found that opportunity.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And, and even before I even went there, I just sat in a bunch of my friends' classes, Jim had classes with the great Will Eisner, who really is the father of sequential art, really, but not only sequential art, but sequential art was the spawn of things like contemporary storyboards, which is what I was really fascinated with even before I went into film school, was storyboarding and the fact that I could, because I was always an artist, so I was like, I can draw what's inside my head, and then I can later film those drawings. That was again something that was foreign, that was never presented to me as a possibility as a kid.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, my brother and I, we would just, when all the other kids were out playing, my brother's an incredible artist. I'm adequate, but he's incredible.
Right.
He's 3 years older than me, but when all the other kids were out playing sports and football and Little League, we were just inside drawing comics.
Yeah.
And he didn't pursue film or the arts, but I realized that, this is making a movie right here. Even playing with action figures and stuff, like you said, even setting up your action figures, we didn't really realize, but we were setting up the master shot here.
Yeah.
When this person comes in, you're looking over here, and this one comes in, and you're making a story visually, but it's all there.
Yeah, or that you're even, you had no word for it at the time, but you're essentially blocking your actors.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I guess that's what all kids do, but they don't make that connection.
They don't make the connection. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's it's so interesting to be able to see, where we get our origins from as filmmakers, because I didn't really do a lot of, after that, I didn't do a tremendous amount of narrative work. I ended up doing, working with a company called Longview for many, many years. And we did music videos and EPKs, which are electronic press kits that don't exist anymore, thanks to things like YouTube. But, back then you physically had to make little bio videos and send them out on VHS tape to various places. But I think that it taught me about doing music videos, was that you had to tell, there was no wasted space. If you told a story, you had to do it very succinctly. A lot of times you had 8 to 12 frames to tell one shot. So you had to tell a story in 8 to 10 frames, because otherwise it would start becoming too long. And I think that, coupled with, because, for a while I was also a stand-up comic.
Oh,
so
wow.
I did stand-up from 1986 to 2001. I ended shortly after 9/11 because I just couldn't find myself telling jokes, after that.
Comedy was struggling around that time, definitely.
But so those two things taught me how to tell a story, how to because I wasn't a joke person. I really sort of told stories more of like, one of my big heroes back then was Bill Cosby, because Cosby told stories,
Oh yeah, I loved the Cosby Show, and we used to listen to my family would listen to the records and stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly the same thing. And so I try not to sort of say that a lot now, but
well, that's the weird thing. It's like, I get it how some people can't separate the art from the artist.
That's exactly it.
It's and that's tragic if they can relate to the victims and stuff. That's terrible. But that's something that if you're laughing, you're laughing.
Right.
It doesn't always make it okay.
Yeah.
We all laugh at horrible things sometimes.
Right.
Too.
Right. Of course.
It's a human nature thing.
Yeah. But those are the things that just sort of taught me how to tell a story, and
Right. Yeah, I grew. My parents divorced early on. I think I was about 6, and my mother got custody, but my brother and I would go to my dad's house on the weekends, Friday evening through Sunday night. And my dad worked hard all week. He didn't really have the energy to keep up with, a couple of kids around, 7 and 10 years old. So he would take us to the movies. And this was the early 80s. So there was plenty of drive-ins, lots of crap in the theaters, like the best garbage you can ever ask for. Right. This was all Star Wars ripoffs, Mad Max ripoffs, barbarian movies. So my dad, whatever, if it had an alien, a barbarian in it, or some kind of road warrior, my brother and I were like, we're gonna see it. And my dad just, he didn't care. He wasn't really paying too much attention to what we were watching. So, and then there was VHS tapes, there was video stores, and again, he wasn't really paying much attention. He shut a few things off, which was, Faces of Death,
Right.
But yeah, the education was that for me, and it was just kind of it was the era where parents really weren't paying too much attention.
Oh yeah,
and that was wonderful time to be alive.
I had a very similar situation. My parents divorced when I was about 13.
Okay.
My mom went to live in Houston, and my dad stayed here. And I was supposed to actually go with my mom, but literally the last minute, I said, I can't leave here because, this is where my friends are. So I'm not going to both go to a foreign place and start completely over from scratch. Yeah. Because I didn't have much of a family. So my friends were my family. I saw at the last minute, I said, Dad, can I stay with you? And my dad was like, fine, you could stay. We had a studio apartment that we lived in. But my dad was, he worked all day and then spent the weekends with his girlfriend. So I essentially at 14 had my own apartment.
Yeah, you were free range, right?
Yeah. So I did the same thing. I would just go to the video store and I would just rent whatever I wanted. And, it was in Jamaica, Queens, and they didn't really care what I rented, even if it was rated R or they probably wouldn't rent me X-rated movies, but like,
the kids, the people working at the stores, they didn't,
but it's funny that you mentioned like Faces of Death and stuff. Like I would just rent those, and and I eventually ended up working in a video store.
Oh yeah, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, and so so that even though I'd gone to film school, that was my real sort of education, was just watching.
Exactly right. Yeah.
And it's the same thing. It just because I was big on, when I first started, I started in when I first started working, I started working in makeup effects. So all the films I saw were just like makeup effects films, Creature and Pumpkinhead and Rawhead Rex and all those, all those films that because there was no internet, all the magazines would just, the Cinefexes and the.
That's what it was. It was Cinefex, Cinemagic, Fangoria. Yeah, it was
great
all,
filmmaker. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of the gateway too, because like you're saying, we would watch these movies, and whether it was a shoddy effect or bad makeup, it showed another dimension into the work. And before that, I don't think I ever put together what the crew did, what a director is. Where do the actors come from? I have no idea. But the fact that you can see a seam of makeup triggers that idea of, that's falling off. Somebody must have put that on them.
Right.
And then you begin, that opens up a floodgate of all the other things that put a movie together and make it work.
Oh, absolutely.
And reading those magazines and seeing somebody behind the camera, it's that camera, blah, blah, blah. And then it just, if you're the type of person that is interested in that just becomes a very quick obsession.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you would wait the month. You'd be going to the your newsstand every day, waiting for that next issue of Cinemagic to come out, and all those things. And and it I remember that in one of the ads in the back of a Cinemagic, there was a place called Alcone.
Oh yeah,
in Long Island City.
Yeah,
and so
I got
ended
Alcone
up,
stuff too.
yeah, and so I ended up taking weekly pilgrimages to Alcone and
Right.
just asking the guys, like, what is this for? What does dental stone do? What does alginate do? And they would just tell you. They had no problems. They were like, oh, it's for this, this, and this, and all the people online are waiting around to get their orders. At the time, I didn't know, but I was talking to a guy, and later I find out it was Screaming Mad George. And people like that.
My gosh,
and
wow.
and so I would ask those guys, just what is this for? What is that for? Why do you have to put this gel on clay so it so it doesn't bundle up while you sculpt it? And I was like, okay, and so that was a bit of my education as well, just sitting and talking to people and watching movies and figuring out on your own.
Yeah, there might not be a better education than diving right in and
that's it,
learning as you do, making a million mistakes. That's
exactly
what's better than that.
Exactly. And my sons now, when they started, they were 13 and 14 years old. And I was working a lot with a company called No Strings International, which were created by a lot of the original creators of Sesame Street and The Muppet Show and things like that. And they would make these amazingly wonderful puppet short films, but really elaborate. I mean, we shot on half sound stages and stuff, and gigantic sets, and for kids in at-risk parts of the world. So when I first worked with them, they were working on a film for kids in Afghanistan, teaching them landmine awareness.
Wow.
Whereas here you'd have to teach your kids don't cross between two cars. There you'd have to teach your kids like, if you're walking down the street and you see a cow that's been blown in half, stop what you're doing and walk back and walk backwards in the footsteps that you're in, because those footsteps were safe.
Wow.
And that's something you would just have to teach your kids.
Yeah.
And my kids, who were at the time, I think they might have been as early as 4 and 6, were just hanging out on the sets, and they were just absorbing, and eventually when they got old enough, they would start working, and they actually ended up getting paid as PAs on the sets. And my oldest son just started working with the camera crew, and so he started understanding, sitting with Academy Award nominated crews and DPs and learning from them. And so now, whenever Josh shoots his films, he just shot a feature film, which was in the Long Island Film Expo this year.
Right.
He shot it himself. He was his own DP.
That's fantastic.
And so people always come to me like, oh, well, do you think they'll go to film school? And I was like, I think film school would be just rudimentary.
They're in it. Yeah. Or they've graduated.
They've graduated.
He's made a feature film.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's no reason for him to go to film school.
That's always been a debate, and I never considered it because I was doing it, and that's kind of naive to think. But I never imagined having the money to do it, and I was not pushed by my parents.
Right.
And it was never a reality to me, because I was always looking at SVA and NYU and California schools, and I'm just like, this is not in any reality possible for me whatsoever. Right. And that's kind of a limiting way to think, but that's just where my mind was. And I was to kind of to quench that thirst. My friends and I were always doing something, like your sons. I mean, you're constantly always doing this movie, and then you stop that one to do this one, and then you go back to that one. And I was doing special effects, makeup like you, and DIY effects. So it was never really like, I don't know. It was just kind of just a naive way to think that, I'm already in this. I'm doing it already.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like you said, you do something like a DIY effect, and then you later learn how someone actually did it on the set, and you're like, yeah, it wasn't all that far off, and you just sort of like pat yourself on the back, and
Yeah. It looked good to us,
Yeah, exactly.
So we were happy.
Exactly.
That's great. Now, about your sons, do you think that did you ever imagine them growing up in a household that wasn't, where the arts weren't present? Would they find it on their own, do you think? Or are they kind of just, is it an environmental thing? That's a weird thing to think about, isn't it?
There's an interesting thing here, and that is, I'm a filmmaker. My father was a jazz musician. His mother was a big band leader.
Oh, wow. Good.
And my father's grandfather was a trapeze artist. In the
so it's in the DNA, right? So
But like if you look at it, none of them were ever influenced by the other person. So you're right. I'd like to think they probably would have found their way into some artistic realm, even if I didn't encourage it.
Yeah.
And so you're right. I think so. I think they would have.
It's either that or it's some kind of talent that's there.
Yeah.
That forces its way out. And the talent kind of determines where you go.
Yeah, I think if you were to ask me, I would say I think that talent is in everyone.
Yeah.
But the fact that your parents or your parents' parents have that in the environment allows that seed to grow.
Yeah.
Whereas if you were in a family where that wasn't encouraged or that wasn't in there, that seed may grow. It could very well grow, but it may not at the same time. And because the previous generation it wasn't encouraged in, and the generation before that. So.
And like we were talking about school too. It's really wasn't it wasn't in that environment either so much.
Right. Exactly.
So,
yeah.
That's interesting to think about though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so let's fast forward a little to like last year, 2020.
Yeah. The legendary year.
Yeah. A lot of things are going on. We had our COVID.
We picked the right time, didn't we?
We had a very sort of, we had a tumultuous political environment in our world. And, but you and I had something very similar happen. And that is that we both had kidney transplants last year. You were ahead of me by about 2 months, I think.
Yeah, I was August. You were October?
I was October, right? Yeah. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about where did it start for you?
I found out that I had chronic kidney disease, which is polycystic kidney disease, and that's basically when your cysts grow in your kidneys. A lot of people get cysts, but these cysts grow aggressively on your kidneys and then kill the tissue until your kidney is no longer functioning. So I first learned about it. I must have been 17 years old. And my friends and I would party on the beach at night. This is Long Island. So we would go build bonfires on the beach and bring beers and girls out to the beach and build a fire. And we would just goof around. And one night I climbed a tree and I was kind of swinging on a branch, I guess I was trying to make somebody laugh or something, and the branch broke that I was standing on, and I was maybe 15, 20 feet up a tree. The branch broke, I was drunk probably, and landed on my back. And I felt like I couldn't move. I thought I broke my back. I was like, oh, something's really wrong. And I couldn't move for a while. My back hurt real bad. And some of my friends left because they didn't want to get caught because someone had to call an ambulance to get me off the beach. And this was like 2 or 3 in the morning. And so a really good friend stayed with me there. My other friends left. They kind of said, hey, my friend's lying on the beach. You can't move. He's calling the ambulance. So the ambulance came, picked me up off I don't know how the hell they found me. But they picked me up, put me in an ambulance, went to the hospital, and I peed. I took a urine test, and it was like dark iced tea. And they were like, oh, yeah, you're going to have to go to x-rays and this and that. There's internal bleeding somewhere. And then they found out that I had polycystic kidney disease, which my mom had, but she never really dealt with it because this kind of thing hits you when you're it can hit you at any time, but in my family, it hits around 40, mid 40s. My brother has it. He had a transplant 3 years ago. My mom had it. She had a transplant. And so I knew from 17 that I had this, and they were like, they warned you. It's like, this is going to get progressive. It's a genetic thing. It's going to get worse as you get older. And I knew the day was coming, but it was probably, it's probably 2.5 years ago where my doctors, I had to see the specialist, nephrologists, and everybody started saying, well, get ready, your failure's like right around the corner, like renal failure's around the corner. And it was pre-dialysis. I understand you were on dialysis, and that's tough. So as I was getting, mapped out for the fistula and the hemodialysis, I was checking that out. And just before I was committed to dialysis, a friend of mine said that she would be a living donor. And my friend Lori Heckman, I gotta, say her name as many times as I can. Lori Heckman, my friend, my amazing friend, came through, and she just, she said she'd be the one. And it was about 6 months of compatibility tests and all this other stuff, which right? I mean, sure. Did you have a living donor, or was it a cadaver?
I had two that offered.
Oh wow!
And
okay.
They ultimately didn't work out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awkward stuff when you're talking about it too, because it wasn't awkward with my friend Lori, but all my friends were like, "So how you doing?" And it like I would always be like, "Oh, I'm fine, don't worry about it, it's cool," because I don't want to, I don't like talking about. I'm not serious about many things. I don't like to talk about real life stuff, But when your friends keep asking, how you doing? At some point you got to be like, well, it's not so great now.
Right.
And, and it was so weird having those discussions with friends, like, because anytime you're coming clean and you're finally, and especially if you're not a person to despair and constantly say, things are terrible, which I try not to do. Your friends come over or whatever, you meet them and you're like, oh, things aren't so good, I got to get a kidney transplant. And then I would love to just sit there, and after I say that and read their faces to see like what angle I think they think I'm playing, It's always awkward. It was never not awkward at all, because they don't, like, nobody knows how to take that, because especially if they're there and they're healthy and they're a possible donor, they're just, I got everything from, well, I'll give you one of mine, to, oh, that's crazy, man. I hope things turn around for it. So it's like, it was the weirdest conversations I ever had with my friends. Like I said, except for Lori, who was just like, I'll do it. And it was honestly that easy. And I know that's not common at all. And I know that I'm blessed to have a friend like that, and many friends who offered too. But I wasn't going to take an offer from somebody who had kids or wanted to have kids. I didn't want to take that responsibility.
Yeah. Because it's easy to offer, but I think once you start to realize all the things that, once a doctor starts explaining to you all the things that go along with that, you don't want to burden that with people sometimes. With me, before I knew it, I always thought that when you had a kidney transplant, you had a kidney transplant. That was it. You were gone. That you're on medication for the rest of your life.
Oh, it's a life changer.
You'd have to be taking. Or another thing I didn't realize, I thought they took out the other two kidneys.
Yeah, right.
I'm now walking around with 3 kidneys. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's something a lot of people don't realize. I think they think that they get rid of the other two, but it's way too complicated. There are too many things attached to your kidneys that you can't just simply remove. So what they do is they just sort of tap, almost like if you tap in a tree for sap. They just do that. They just into the side of one.
Take a couple of things and just reroute the things.
Exactly.
It's like changing an extension cord, from this one to this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Much more complicated than that. But,
yeah.
But basically, I had the same questions too. Not so many, because I saw my mom go through it in 2004. She's no longer around.
Right. Did she get a transplant? Did she get a transplant, or
her sister, my aunt, gave her?
Oh wow.
A kidney, and it lasted 8 years. She passed in 2018 from that and many other things. And then my dad gave my brother a kidney in 2017. So I kind of knew what you're in for. Yeah. Kind of like I saw the process happen, and I saw it happen. I saw failure happen to my mom, and then I saw my brother, get so much more healthy. And I saw the incredible love of somebody giving that to someone else, family and friends. So it was, it's such a mix of weird emotions that you never really need to confront all the time. And it was interesting to learn all about that and to see somebody you're with kind of be concerned, and then you feel guilty for accepting. So it was a weird like prep period where we didn't really know. And there's always the warning of like, look, God forbid something happens, and you're just like, what's going to happen, And I wasn't really so concerned about myself. I was concerned about my donor more than anything,
Yeah, and same with me, and the ones that didn't work out, I don't know if they think I feel like I'm disappointed with them, but I keep telling them all the time, like, look, I'm more grateful that you offered more than anything else.
Right. Yeah,
the fact that you offered shows just the level of love that I didn't think was possible. So if it didn't work out, like, don't worry about it. That's for me, it's more. I'm more amazed that you just made the offer and went through the testing and all that, because it's rigorous. Right. The testing is like a rigorous thing that you have to go through.
Yeah,
it's initially like this big 9-hour day that you've just got to sit and go back and take these tests and go to another office. And both times it was at for me it was at NYU in the city. So it's a gigantic building. So all the testings were in that building, but it's a huge, gigantic building. So like, there's, I think there's a good couple of miles of walking that you do in that 9-hour day.
Yeah. But if you can walk those miles, that means you're going to be a good donor. You're going to pass the stress test,
Exactly.
But there's a weird guilt, but then you're just kind of overwhelmed by the generosity. And then, and I was totally cool with it. I put a lot of trust in doctors and the scientists and stuff. Yeah. Until the morning of the transplant, and you can't eat for 24 hours or whatever it is, and you got to wake up at 3 a.m. because they start at 5:45 or whatever it is. And I remember them. You get in there and they're prepping you. You take your clothes off. You put robes on. All the specialists come in. They're putting the IVs in, and I just started passing out. I started overheating and passing out.
Oh wow!
But I wasn't nervous. But it was something that was telling me this is horrible right now. So my body just kept shutting down, and they were at the point where they were like, he's not gonna be able to go in and do this. Because I passed out like 3 times. And so they just put ice packs all over me for like 10 minutes. And then they were like, oh, you're okay. Let's go. And they started.
Oh, good. Oh, wow.
But that was like, I was freaking out. And then I got more nervous that they kept saying like, can he do this or not? And then that made me, freak out even more.
Yeah.
But it was a weird kind of panic and stuff.
Yeah, I was a little bit of the opposite because there was nothing scheduled. I just got that call.
Oh, was it? It was a cadaver?
It was
deceased donor?
Yeah. It was a deceased donor.
God.
So the interesting thing, I was about to take my wife to a doctor's appointment, and so I got the call and I almost didn't pick up because I was like, look, I'm running out right now. I'm sure they'll leave a message on the answering machine, but something told me to pick up, and they were like, we got a kidney, you need to come right now. Wow. So I said, Liz, I told my wife, and she canceled the doctor, and we got a friend to drive us into the city because I couldn't do it. Otherwise, because my wife doesn't drive. So, we'd have no place to bring the car. So a friend of ours was generous enough and drove us in. And so there was no, they didn't have time to say, don't eat anything for 24 hours.
Yeah.
But, it just sort of rushed me in. And because unlike you, that donor, that kidney's inside the donor pretty much up until the time you make the transfer.
Oh, is that true? Yeah.
They'll take it out of the donor for you, and it goes in. But in my case, it's in a not a petri dish, but it's I'm just gonna use it as an analogy. It's sitting in a petri dish somewhere, and it's degenerating. So time is of the essence.
They gotta be quick. Right.
Exactly. So I had to race in, and the only thing that took a little bit of time is I remember they had to give me a COVID test, so I had to sit around for an hour.
Oh man, wow.
In the operating room, and
you must be thinking you must be thinking about the kidney that's waiting for you, and come on,
time's literally wasting.
Let's go.
Yeah, because it already was it was 2 hours from for me to get to the call to the hospital, so I had to wait another hour. So in my head, oh my god, this is degenerating, and all these different things.
And they could call it at the last minute too, right? They can be like, oh, you know what, this isn't going to work today.
It's not going to work. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate that the doctor came over to me and he said everything's good. Let's go in the in the room. And it's weird because you go in and they put the thing over your mask. And I don't know about you, I've only had surgery twice, and one was a minor thing. When I went to the first time the dialysis, they put a port in your chest.
Yeah.
And so they had to put me out there, and both times I kept thinking what if I just don't wake up? There's this weird thing because because you've seen enough horror films and all that sort of stuff, and the room's just sort of deadly clean and clinical, and and that's always your thoughts go there.
If you have a morbid sense of humor or a dark imagination, like we probably do, you just go there. It's sort of comforting somehow. It's it's oh my God, I'm not going to come out of this. It's and then way in the back of your mind, it's shut up. Of course you are.
And the doctor put my port in. This is before the doctor put my port in was from, I think, Romania, and literally had a thick, almost Transylvanian accent. And I remember at one point he actually said, he goes, when you lie down in the bed and we put you out and wake up, you will have no memory of what happened. And I was like, oh great.
Was he doing this while he was saying
that? Yeah, he practically was. When
that's
Lucas
so perfect.
As Dracula, he's that's all I kept thinking about.
That's so perfect.
Yeah, and but my other doctor was really cool. But you just have the thought, and you just sort of you lose complete track of time, because it's almost like here you are on the operating table, and it goes out, and it just kind of comes back up like that. It's weird, and then you're just hooked up to a million things in a hospital bed.
Yeah, people would tell me, the plan, the coordinators and the surgeons, they're like, you're going to be out like that, and then wake up you're not going to remember anything, and it's such a hard concept to believe.
Until you experience it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it, and it's true.
Yeah.
You just the waking up was horrible, but it's just going out was you're out by the count of 3. You're toast. You're done. Yeah. And then
you're up, and you're hooked up to so many things.
Oh yeah. When you got to get up, and you got to, you're peeing in a bag, but you got to, they make us maybe on day two in the recovery, you're up and walking in the morning.
Yeah, that's exactly. They have you walking.
And you could, I had a different thing. I had a nephrectomy, which they did take one of mine out because it was about 8 pounds.
Oh my gosh!
Because they were so bloated. Yeah.
Oh my God!
Loaded with cysts, and they also took my spleen out too because all the cysts were kind of connecting all the tissues. So they had to carve it out.
If memory serves, the spleen sort of lives on top of your kidney, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was fused with it. So and they couldn't separate it. They were cutting into the spleen and stuff.
Oh my God!
And then they were like, the spleen just does a few things, but you'll be okay without it. I'm like, okay, cool. Thanks for telling me what a spleen did, because now I know.
Yeah.
But they cut me from here all the way down to almost, the base of my penis, right?
Yeah.
So they cut it and they pulled it open.
Oh wow.
And I guess they took everything out and kind of put it on the side, and then they took out. The doctor was like, "Oh, the size of a watermelon, the kidney."
Oh my gosh!
You have to make all that room to pull it out and stuff. And work, actually get in there and work, I guess. So.
Oh my goodness!
So I was stapled 52 stitches from the top to bottom.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
I was
I
proud of
had-
that because the surgeon said that was the record amount of staples anybody got. So
Wow. Yeah, because I think I had like 37.
Oh my
sisters
gosh,
were-
staples.
Yeah, but mine went laterally. Mine went across
Yeah.
my stomach. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And they
Yeah.
slip it right in there and then connect it to the
Connected. Yeah, reconnect everything. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean that would have been cool, but you know, they had to go this way.
Right,
And
because
then
and that's because of the spleen. That's because of the
it was because of the size of the kidney that came out, I think.
Yeah.
It was just that was the only way it can get out because
Yeah.
they still they didn't put the new one in there. They still put it. It's weird where they put it. They put it at like your right or left abdomen area.
yeah.
The new kidney, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
mine's on the right side.
yeah, mine's on the right side too.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of people don't know that they don't. Sometimes they do take one out. A lot of times they don't. If they're not really a problem, they leave them in there.
You leave them, yeah.
And then you're kind of left with all these questions of like, is there going to be a bulge there, or am I going to feel it where it shouldn't be?
Yeah, that's interesting. I
Like,
just
no.
thought, yeah. You really don't. You don't feel
No,
anything.
it just,
yeah.
I mean, at first you feel it, but then it goes down. But getting up and recovering was rough. And I know that not everybody gets this done, but
Yeah.
hopefully you're like getting up and walking around in recovery when.
Yeah, after the first day you're in bed, but the second day, yeah, they got you up, walking around. It's very difficult, as you should know, because you can't really sit up. Because the second you try to move, if you're in the bed like this, the second you try to move forward, because your stomach is still in stitches, it just it's just a huge ache of trying to just move your stomach. So they have to sort of help you up, and but once you're up around, I had no problems sort of walking up around.
No, it felt great to walk.
Yeah.
It felt, somehow it just kind of settled everything down where it kind of should be.
Yeah, exactly.
My guts fell asleep. So like I had this weird thing called ileus, I think it was called, where the doctor described it as like when someone's in there messing with your guts, they kind of play dead for a while. They think your body's dead. So I was
interesting.
So I couldn't really, I could swallow stuff because you're taking medications like cups of meds 5 times a day or something.
Oh yeah,
like that.
it was insane.
And, yeah, my GI system was not working, so it was all kind of just staying up here, and no bowel movements for like 6 days, and it was horrible because I tried to keep these pills down and nothing was moving. And they almost made me stay longer than it was the 6th day I got out, but they were like,
I took 8 days to get out.
8 days.
Yeah, it was 8 days for me. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Did they say why that took?
It took a couple of days for the kidney to wake up. And,
oh, okay, right. Okay.
So they just wanted to monitor. It wasn't something that was serious. They just wanted to monitor it. They let you go when they know for sure that your kidney's awake and doing what it's doing.
Right. That's common though. Sometimes it takes. It
takes a while. So so they weren't concerned. They just wanted to make sure that everything was okay before they released me.
Right.
But
I mean, going from dialysis to that, what was that like? Because I mean, you had to still do hemodialysis.
I did I did hemodialysis from my port. But I didn't. It was interesting because they were going to put me onto dialysis, and I think I did 2 sessions of dialysis while I was there.
The first few days.
I was on. Yeah. But it wasn't a lot. It wasn't like I was on for 3.5 hours, 3 days a week in the other dialysis. So this time when I was in the hospital, it was only like an hour and a half or something that they did it for.
Okay.
I don't know for this for sure, but I think it's because they don't want your new kidney to think that it's not needed. Because it needs to have blood go through, but they just needed to keep your creatinine down to a certain level and make sure that your blood was clean until that woke up.
Until it realized what it needed to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Working,
so I wasn't on for very, very long each time, but I think I only did it twice.
Yeah.
And then once a kidney started showing signs, then I didn't do anything after that. And it's it's great for the first time you get to take a shower without your port in it. Because, you know, when you have a port literally coming out of your chest that's attached to your jugular vein essentially, but it's right here in your chest. You can't just jump in a shower. There's a whole mess of things. It's a good half an hour of prep work that you have to do before you get into a shower. And so that was draining because you couldn't, you know, you just then didn't have the time to shower every day, which sucked, you know, and it's like, you know, but especially during the summer, like if there are times you shower twice a day, you know, if you sweat up or whatever. And you just couldn't do that. So for me, one of the things I was most excited about getting the kidney was just jumping in the shower whenever I wanted to.
Yeah, I hear that all the time about
most people take for granted.
I know that I like my mom. She was on dialysis for years before the kidney, and then she said like just peeing for the first time again in years was like the greatest thing you can imagine. It's like it's the weirdest thing. People don't realize if you know people who've never been on dialysis or don't know what it's about. Yeah, because when you're on dialysis, essentially all the liquid in your body is taken out, cleaned, and put back in. So there's actually no reason to pee. Your body stops peeing. And you know, I don't know if this happened to you because you weren't on dialysis, but your bladder essentially shrinks too. So the whole time I was in the hospital, I kept going, I really have to pee. I really have to pee. I really have to pee. When you don't, it's just tiny bits of liquid that's in your bladder, but just an urgency to do it. Yeah,
it makes you feel like you've got to pee. I got to go pee until eventually, you know, and your bladder has like a muscle memory to it, so it eventually will expand back out to where it was. But in that time, you always feel like, oh, I got to pee, you know, and you have a catheter in, which the first time I ever had one, and I don't know about you, it was a lovely experience when they pulled it out.
I mean they pulled that out, and then I don't know if you had I forgot it was a drainage tube in there too.
Yes,
and it was like and the nurse would come at the nursing staff. I had it at Stony Brook Hospital, and the nursing staff was incredible. Right, they were the most amazing people, but they would come in and they would, you know, pump the juice out, like the whatever fluid was. It's a little bulb. Yeah. Right. For those of us listening, it's a little bulb, and it's a tube that comes out of the side of your stomach. Yeah. And there's a bulb, and there's I'm not even sure what it is. It's just red liquid that sort of drains into it, and every now and then they unhook the bulb and they squeeze it out and they put the bulb back in. I guess it was like some kind of pussy, kind of infectious drainage stuff that just has to come out. I don't know, and pulling that out too, because that's like all coiled in there, like the tube goes in there deep. Yeah. And just like the catheter goes in there deep. So when they're pulling it out, you're feeling something going. Yeah. It's like
freaky,
wrapping around your guts and your weird stuff inside. It's like you're not used to feeling something inside moving around there. Yeah. That shouldn't be there. So when they're pulling that out, you're just like, whoa, what the hell is this? And it's pain, but it's also like you're not expecting that feeling whatsoever.
Yeah, because it's not a feeling you've ever had.
No, you know? It's weird.
It's weird. It's disorienting. The catheter was the only time in my life I ever screamed out loud from pain. And it was I don't even think it was a third of a second that it took to pull it out. But it was that much pain.
Yeah, that's horrible. And you think that like, I should be sleeping when you're doing this, you know? Like, and they're just like, they do it like once every hour. They're like, nah, you know, they're going down the hall doing that. Zip, 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 zip.
Yeah. And that was a third of a second. And there's no way I can ever liken this to something like childbirth, but I could just imagine if that third of a second of pain went on for 15, 20 hours.
Oh my God.
I have so much more respect for my wife.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And there was another thing, there was a stint put in.
Yes, a stint that they have to.
That for me, that was worse because they go up the
urethra.
They go up with a tool.
Yep.
That's got a grabber on it.
Yep.
And they don't put you out for that either. They just numb the area.
Yeah, they give you a topical. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they stick the thing in there.
Yeah.
And you can feel it going up through things.
Yeah.
Like it goes up your prostate, it goes past your bladder.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I was howling like a freaking wolf.
Yeah.
And
I wasn't so much howling, but I really felt like I felt like I was just peeing all over this poor guy's table,
right, yeah.
which you're not. You're actually not.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some liquid, but that's what it feels like, you know?
It's the same sensation. It's so weird.
It's so bizarre. Yeah.
And then they grab it and they pull it out. And, you know,
Yeah.
they're like,
It's
"Do you
like
wanna see it?" You know?
Yeah, there are those. It's like those. There's a plumber's tool that's very similar. That again for our audience that's never had this happen. It's a little coil, and then there's this at the end of the coil that there's like these little grabbers like that.
Right, comes out, yeah.
And then it grabs because the stint is only like it's tiny, but it's shaped almost like a capsule, like a pill capsule.
Right.
And it grabs it, and it grabs it, and it pulls it all the way through. Yeah, you're right. All those urethra, all the way through, all the way out the tip of the penis. And that's
that wasn't cool.
But that was I don't know. Did I have you in the hospital or weeks later? For me, it was like
that was like 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
That's usually what happens, and that's women and men get the same thing done, and you could just imagine. And I wanted to know because I asked my brother, and he's like, "Oh, it's like 2 seconds, and you don't really feel anything." And I'm just like, really, dude? I can't imagine that not feeling like anything.
Yeah.
And I knew the process. So when you walk into the clinic where you're getting it done, you're in and out in like 10 minutes, really.
Yeah.
But you go in there and the tools are on the tray and you're looking at them and you're like determining which one they're going to use.
Right.
And you're looking at the tray and you're like, none of those seem like they're
the good option.
Yeah. They're all horrible.
Yeah.
So.
Because I remember thinking they all look like. Do you remember that scene in Lethal Weapon when Mr. Han was gonna electrocute Mel Gibson?
Yeah.
He had that tray of instruments. And
that's all I kept That's exactly where my mind went. I was at some torture scene. It's like Dead Ringers or something where there's like all these weird tools, and it's like none of these things are a good option here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that was you know what, the recovery, aside from being really uncomfortable and not being able to sleep in a position or stay, it wasn't that terrible. It wasn't that bad because after a few weeks it was like 3 weeks, and then I started to feel like, all right, this is much better now. Like the first couple weeks is rough, but then after that you're like, okay, this is good. You start walking more. And then after a few months, I felt like I was 21 or something. The energy level, I don't know if you had that, but like after like 2 months, I was like, felt so amazing and had this incredible energy. It was wild.
Before, for me, before dialysis, this is the level of energy I had. Okay. I would get up around noon. I would make myself something to eat, and I'd be so tired I'd go back to sleep.
Yeah, right.
That was my day, Yeah. That because my kidney, and I was just like, I don't, why am I like this? Why am I like this? It wasn't until I went to a doctor and my creatinine was at, I think, 13. Now, for those who don't,
When did you realize there was it that?
When I went to the doctor. I went to a regular
because
doctor.
Of fatigue and stuff, right?
Yeah. And so he sent me to a nephrologist, and that's when the whole thing started. Like he set me up with dialysis and all that sort of stuff.
Wow. So it was pretty quick when you learned, and then you were on dialysis.
Because it was rather advanced. My kidneys were when I got to the nephrologist. My kidneys were at, I think, 16% function.
Yeah.
Wow. So it was, and it's interesting because I think most people don't normally have 100%. I think they usually roll somewhere between 70 and 80%.
Right. Yeah.
But 16 is incredibly low. 16 is, your blood is essentially not clean. So you're. That's
when they have to act quick and get you on
dialysis.
Yeah.
And my doctor knew that I had a donor in the wings, so he was always hesitant to get me fixed with a fistula, because fistulas, as you said, they map your veins in your hands with I don't know exactly how they do it, but then they add a permanent fixed port to your arm. And it can actually be rather disfiguring. Most people, it gets the tubes and stuff go under your skin. They don't ever get.
When it's used a lot and that stays there. I mean, you can get it tied off and kind of surgery to kind of correct it, but oftentimes it's a big noticeable tube.
That's in your arm, and it's and I'm so and my doctor was always trying to. He just kept putting it off because he knew that.
That's great.
He was really cool about it. And he said, okay, we're getting a donor. And then when that donor worked out, and he was like, okay, he said, do you know anyone else? And then someone else stepped up, but they didn't work out either. The blood types, all that sort of stuff, just ultimately doesn't work. Which is, you're incredibly lucky when someone had offered it and they were a match on top of that.
It was the first time. Yeah, it was the genetic match that really mattered with us. It was kind of like, from what I understand, it's still pretty confusing to me, but blood type matters, but not so much as the kind of antibodies and the genetic compatibility was.
Yeah, I found that out too. The blood type is helpful, but if it doesn't work, if it's not the same, if you don't have the same blood type, you can still use the kidney. I'd find that out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, you were lucky to have that period there where you can kind of figure out, like, your doctor was smart by doing that, by not doing that at first, but it happened. But it was like you were lucky to kind of notice something was really wrong.
I mean, literally, I was asleep all day long. And
I felt that too. That's horrible to feel that. Just, you have no energy, you have no desire to get up and do anything. It's just your body just is saying no.
And it isn't just physical, because once your body's doing that, then your brain doesn't want to work, and your brain doesn't want to do anything. And
Yeah. And it's weird because, I don't know if you had this, but like, you otherwise look okay though. You look okay. So, I mean, you might, like in my case, my abdomen got big because the kidneys were pushing everything around, but I couldn't like bend over to tie my shoes. It couldn't like walk up and down the stairs without like taking a break and stuff. So it was, but you otherwise look okay. So when you're, when you go biking with your friends and your friends are like ripping down the trail and you're just like, you got to stop every couple minutes, or just taking a walk through the woods. It's like, I can't do that.
My family would go for walks, and after a while I'd be like, okay guys, I got to stop. And I realized I only walked like 2 or 3 blocks.
I know, me too. Yeah. And you feel so terrible because you're letting yourself down. You're like, what's wrong with me? Like, I suck. And then, some people aren't that kind of, they're not that, they don't know to like look at what the problem is, because you look fine. And if it's not like it doesn't look like a physical thing and you're just tired. Right. Some of them are like, come on, get off your ass and let's do this stuff. It's like, no, I've stayed home so many times from parties and stuff because it's like events and weddings. I'm like, no, I know I'm going to be out there for 10 hours and I'm going to need naps and stuff. It's like, I'm not going to put myself in, have everybody ask, are you okay all the time? I'm like, no, I'm just going to stay home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, now it's much different, and, your energy level is different. Lately I've been sleeping a lot during the day only because I'm up all night just working and stuff that. So it's a little different. So I'm still sleeping in the day, but it's a much different reason.
Well, that's another part of the discussion I think we were going to have is the work aspect of it, which is weird because now we have to connect like COVID, all the unemployment that's happened in 2020 and still is happening, but like the weird industry stuff. And then also it's like, I was waiting. 2020 was perfect for me personally to do this because I was not working at all. So, I mean, obviously there's risks with COVID, but that wasn't really an issue. I mean, they did shut down elective surgeries for like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. And that was another thing that sort of delayed some of my the choices people made to
Exactly
donate.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when people were ready, it's like, oh no, they're not even doing that now. It's like,
Right.
oh shit, because it's not. I mean, it's elective. Was it elective for you? No, it
Oh,
wasn't.
of
really
course it's elective. Yeah, because
Oh, well, for the donor.
yeah, and
Yeah.
for me as well, because of dialysis, there's another means to keep me alive. So it's not.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
not,
for you, it was considered
elective surgery. Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. That's weird.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That shouldn't be that way. Should it?
I know.
It should be like, no, that's not right.
No.
Those dialysis companies, man, they'll keep you on it as much as they can.
Oh yeah.
They're
Absolutely.
tough customers, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a little bump in the road, and then all the COVID stuff was a bump, but it was also like, cool, we got this gap of time where the world's pretty much shut down. Like, let's do it now. But then when a few months later, like, by New Year's, I'm sure you were like, all right, let's get back to work. Like, you're dying to get back to work. You got this energy, and then some parts of the industry are just not ready to work again. It was weird. It's horrible. Yeah.
Yeah. And, we took the time out because my sons are both filmmakers now. And my youngest is also an actor as well. We took the time out to just start doing our own stuff.
Yeah.
Because usually when if I have a big enough job or something like that, what I always do is I always buy some kind of piece of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And so whether it's just an LED light or this, or if the job's big enough, I'll buy a Blackmagic 4K or something like that, or so by the time 2021 rolled around, we had more than enough equipment to just start making stuff, making our own.
Yeah, you have a production company, pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah. And not have to spend money. We ended up back in August. We got challenged to make a film, which we decided to say, all right, let's just do it. And we wrote, shot, and edited and delivered a film in 2 weeks, a half-hour horror film.
Oh, that's awesome.
In
okay.
2 weeks.
Who challenged you to do this?
We were in a Facebook group, a no-budget Facebook group.
Oh, that's so cool.
And they had this challenge, and we were like, why don't we just do it? Because they had the challenge, but we hadn't. And we were like, why don't we just do it? We have one friend who's got a whole bunch of paramilitary props and stuff like that. And we had so many other friends who were actors who hadn't been working, were dying to just do anything.
Yeah. Right.
And people I didn't even know. There's some people I didn't even know, but other friends who were in acting school and things like that said, "Oh, I have someone in my school who'd be perfect for this role," or whatever. And so everyone just dove in and gave 100%. We have a garage we have a house that's over 100 years old, and we have a garage that's really old and spooky. So we're like, let's shoot something in there, and hang a ton of crosses off the ceiling, or and the same thing. We have an unfinished basement. Let's shoot something creepy in there, and so we ended up and now that film is running some of the festival circuits now, because
that's so cool. Yeah, if there was any blessing, it's that. I mean, it's suddenly you just have this space in time where you could pretty much. I mean, you're limited with COVID restrictions and stuff and safety stuff, but you pretty much do whatever the hell you want. I mean, I wrote 2 screenplays in that time, and it was, it's like anyone who kind of just took the downtime and relaxed, that's great. But it's like, also, it's like, you're not working. You can do whatever you want. You could do whatever. And it was just kind of like the surgery. It's like, oh, let's get it done now when nothing else is happening. Yeah.
Now your short film, Like Me Deadly, did you do that post kidney or pre kidney?
That was done pre. That was done. I had the transplant in August of 2020, and I finished Like Me Deadly in March of 2020.
Okay.
So, but I started shooting it in 2019. It took like 9 months because people got really busy. Like the editor, the composer, and the VFX artists all got real busy.
Sure.
So it took a long time. But yeah, that was good to get that done before.
I really loved it. I mean, I thought it was a great commentary on that sort of desire for fame that doesn't necessarily add up, I guess, or that some people can do and but not necessarily.
It's so weird because like you and I grew up in a time where I guess it was so hard. I mean, it's still incredibly hard to achieve a level of fame or success in the doing film and it's, it was so difficult to get a film made when we were younger. It's a snap now. I mean, every movie's hard to make, but just to compete in a film festival with other amazing films, you have to have a production level that's crazy and a name actor. And as those things, for a no budget filmmaker, those things are next to impossible. But now you have an iPhone and you have some kind of spark of a personality or charisma or a nice ass or something. You can just, boom, you're famous and that's it. And it's like, what the hell is this crap? Like, I've been working for 20 years trying to get the slightest bit of recognition.
Sure.
But then it's also like the other side of the coin is like, well, that's really inspiring.
Yeah.
Because not everybody can just kind of rise up like that. You got to have something.
Right.
And all you need, if you have that something, all you need to do is know how to just shoot on an iPhone and edit real quick, and just do that 2 or 3 times a day on TikTok, and you got it.
Yeah.
So it's like,
because you're very aware of what your audience is too.
Yeah.
And once you're aware of that, it's very easy to play to that.
Yeah, I was at first confused by it, but then I understood it, and then I'm like, oh, this is really inspiring. But then I started I'm very cynical, and I don't like to be, but horrible things make me laugh. And I kept seeing these challenges on Instagram or TikTok, where kids would light themselves on fire, or there was a few accidents too. Kids were doing these challenges, and I read an article about some Instagram model who she wanted a picture in a shark cove. So she her floating in a shark cove, and I guess her boyfriend was taking pictures or something, and she got bit by a shark, right? But the picture looked great. So it's like she kind of got she might have got a shark bite, but the picture's cool. The Instagram got a lot of views. So it's like, it's in my story, the personality, the Instagram personality, or whatever app she's using, there's a home invasion by some deranged fans, break into her house, and she live streams the attack because the numbers keep going up. So in the end, she pays the ultimate price, but the last thing she sees is her hitting her goal of follows, and she dies with a smile on her face. So that's the most cynical way to look at kind of the current definition of success or fame. But it's a success story as far as I'm concerned, because she achieved her goal.
Oh, absolutely, and I think
and what matters more than that? Some people, that's it.
Yeah, and I think I think that's what makes some of the best satires is that how far how far does this premise go? What is the reductio ad absurdum of the premise that you're starting with? Because because I think if you just had a night of someone trying to Instagram themselves or shoot themselves doing something, I don't think it would have been as interesting as what you did, which is how you take it so far down the road, and still keep this person's goal intact.
Yeah, it was a single-minded. It was a single-minded, thing. It was one goal.
Yeah,
and whatever it took to get that, and yes, it's extreme satire, but that's the kind of shit that makes me laugh, man. That was it. And I think it's inspiring too. Not that, No,
absolutely.
What the hell? There's a lot of movies like that where somebody, kind of.
I'm gonna put a link in our comments below, just because I think everybody should really take a look at it, because it really was good, and the production value was fantastic, and
thanks.
I thought everything worked so well, and she was great, and she was terrific. I mean,
Sky Strachey is a hero. She's incredible. Yeah, she was super dynamic, and she did all those. We shot it in a house up in Saugerties, upstate. An Airbnb, and the whole house was like hardwood floors, and she's in her underwear getting tossed around and knocked here and there, and she's falling, trying to fight these home invaders, these 3 attackers. And she never once was like, oh, I gotta fall on this floor, or I gotta punch this person with this. She just did it 100%, just like went for it. And yeah, I didn't even consider should we put this pad down? She's like, no, she's from Australia. She's like, I'm Australian, so I'm gonna just.
I didn't pick that up in the accent.
Yeah, she's from like Perth or something, and she's just like, oh, this is what we do there. This is how we play. So it's like, oh, shit, awesome, And yeah, she just went 100% ahead, and she killed it. Yeah, she's great.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I think everyone should see it. It's a really terrific
thank you, man.
piece. Yeah.
Appreciate
it. So what are you up to next? What are you doing now?
I don't know. I'm trying to get to work because it's like I work in the healthcare pharmaceutical realm of filmmaking, and it's difficult to get going when you're a locations filmmaker, documentarian, commercial filmmaker, and the healthcare industry is hesitant to return to a full production, location production mode. So it's trickling back in, but like I said before, it's great to wrap up a lot of screenplays. Wrote a screenplay for a producer. So I'm just writing and then planning another film of some kind. I don't quite know yet, but I can't sit still for much longer. Definitely.
Oh no, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
Especially when you go through something like we went through, it really kind of makes you evaluate what time you have left.
Yeah.
And how to use that stuff. Yeah. And I feel guilty for laying around a house for a day or two. I feel really terrible.
Yeah.
I just hate myself for not just getting up and doing something because there's no excuse now. I mean, we got to take pills a couple times a day and drink a bunch of water and watch what we eat.
Yeah.
But shit, I mean, you coming from dialysis, like what was
exactly?
It's like, it's such a gift.
Oh, absolutely.
And to kind of like, to take that for granted in the slightest ways. I feel terribly guilty for doing that.
In terms of medication, I see it almost like, because there's so many like you see a lot of these sort of bodybuilders or health nuts that have a vitamin regimen that they stick to.
Yeah.
I've seen them take more pills than we're taking now. So I don't really, I'm fine with what
and what that's doing to their kidneys. Like who the hell knows?
Oh, I know.
With all that like shakes and the creatinine stuff they're drinking and crap like that. It's like, But yeah, you're right. It's really not that hard. It's kind of do or die, but it's not that difficult compared to like, I'm sure what you went through on dialysis 3 times a week, and like your day is shot, and then it's a day of recovering from that too. You feel like crap.
Yeah, I have a friend, a good friend who is from Rwanda, and she's a survivor of the genocide.
Wow! Oh my God!
And in their language, they have a great saying, and I'm going to butcher this word. I know I am, but it's called a Kenyon Giza, or a Kinyon Giza. And what it means is bonus life. Because she by all rights should not be alive today. So she feels that she has this Kinyon Giza, which she's been handed this bonus life. And their belief is that if you've been handed this bonus life, that means that you've been put on this earth for a reason. So that death wasn't ready for you yet. So you need to understand that you have to do something with the life that you do. And that's the way I see it. I see now all the things I do either have to matter either socially or to me, You know, even the things I write, even if I just write like a horror short, it's not just some random slasher film. It's going to be about, which is what I like so much about Like Me Deadly, that it wasn't just some random slasher film. It had a very specific thing to say. And it's the same with me. Well, the things I write now are just going to, they need to be something that I'll either champion or speak for somebody else or something, you know, and it, you know, whether it's horror or comedy or action or documentaries, I'm still working on those, and you know, that they have to mean something, you know. That's why I thought it was so important, because recently you know, I went into this on Facebook, because I'm not going to go too far into it, but I recently just directed 2 segments of Sesame Street.
That's wild. Congratulations.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Which I was never able to do before, because I wasn't in, and I'm still not in the DGA. Yeah. But because they're doing digital content, it's not considered broadcast. So, and I've worked so often with a lot of the puppeteers and the people in there, that one of them, when they were looking for directors to do this, one of them brought up my name, and next thing I know, you know, a couple weeks later, we're in pre-production and we're shooting
so
those.
Wild.
And you know,
and this was a lifetime kind of like dream.
Of course, yeah, right? Because no one my age
so
didn't grow up with the Muppet Show or Sesame Street, and
that's right.
Love them. Yeah. You know, so the fact that I even know these people, that's a dream come true. But not, you know, this was a cherry on the icing, was actually being to work on Sesame Street. And yeah. But knowing them, because I've known them since, like I said, with that No Strings International. I've known them all for almost 20 years now. So the fact that I'm working on them, that's the cherry on the icing. You know, to me, the dream come true is the fact that I'm around them. And you know, so much of my creative endeavors are inspired by what they do. You know,
I hope you found that moment when you were there and doing that little moment that you got to kind of take and really save.
Oh yeah.
You know,
while you know this as a director, while you're doing it, you can't think of it. You're just going through it.
You have no time for yourself, and your own self-reflection.
But in the car ride home, I was like, I was like a babbling baby. I was just like,
that's your moment right there.
Yeah,
that's when it all kind of, you know, I mean, the universe came together with that call you got from the hospital.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then again, like, and then kind of in this bonus life. What did she say?
Yeah, a Keenan Gizo, yeah.
Yeah, with that, I mean, you have, and then you're able to, and you have a family that you get to spend time with, making films with your sons. I mean, absolutely. And then you have that moment. It's like, gosh, like it might be easier to find those moments now and kind of like take the time and live in that moment for a little longer. Yeah.
Yeah, and you said something very important, to find those moments. I don't think, had I not been given the second choice, I would necessarily always recognize those moments.
That's it, right? Yeah.
And so now you find yourself, you find yourself recognizing these amazing moments more often.
Yeah.
And appreciating them and understanding that I just experienced something that maybe I might not have. You know, I might not necessarily be here if had I not a kidney, or I had not given. So when things happen, you do recognize it more. You know, you'll see it more, and you'll appreciate it more.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I think on that note, we're gonna stop this here, because we've been talking for a while. Wow, this is a nice.
Oh yeah, what's the time limit on this?
There's no time limit, but we're at an hour and a half. So.
Oh shit! Look how fast that
time flew.
I can go for another hour and a half. But.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And maybe you will one day. We'd love to have you back and talk about stuff.
Heck yeah! I appreciate this. This is great.
Absolutely. You know, and I think the fact that I think cathartically, I don't know about you, but for me, cathartically, to be able to talk to somebody else who's gone through this, I think that's probably what made it fly so fast, because we had very similar situations, and we were able to just go, oh yeah, that happened to me. So
thanks for that, because I don't get to do that often.
I'm so glad.
Maybe on Facebook, like a Facebook group or something like that, but I appreciate it for that aspect alone. Yeah, I mean, I'm realizing now that I don't get to do this at all.
Yeah.
So this is great.
Yeah, because you know, I've talked about this many times with people who haven't gone through this, but just the little nods of recognition, I would say something, or something you would say, and I go, "Yep, know exactly what you're talking about." You know, that went miles for me.
Awesome, great.
So Sean, thank you so much. And yeah, like I said,
you, Rob.
this won't be the last time. We have other podcasts coming up. I'll probably talking with other filmmakers about stuff and groups and things like that. I would love you to be part of that. And
awesome. Let's make a film too. Like,
yeah,
give me a shout. If you ever need another camera, I got a bunch of stuff. I'll come by.
Yeah. I hope you're not just randomly saying that because
no. I got nothing else to do. Come on.
Yeah, as Don Corleone said, one day, and this day may never come. You'll get that call. Awesome, man. That would be fantastic.
Cool.
So yeah, man. Thanks so much, and we will we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Rob.
Take care. Bye.
If you like what you saw and you want to see more, please like and subscribe for alerts and all that other fun stuff.